Santa's Second Wife is a really fun film. It's not perfect. I think the pacing could have been significantly better, and I will give an example of what I mean by that in a moment. But generally, I quite liked this. This was released in 2022. It's directed and written by Candice T. Cain, and it stars Jason Frederick as Santa Claus, and we have Neve Pine, played by Sara Pardo Fishburn. And Santa is served with divorce papers. Mrs. Claus, played by Chelsea Gilson, decides she wants to divorce Santa. And when the divorce goes through, Santa reverts to being 40 years old again. And he realizes after about a month or so that he should try and find a new Mrs. Claus. And the film is partly about him dating and trying to find somebody he connects with. On the one hand, I think it was good fun to see the various people he went on dates with. I think they could have done a bit more with that. Maybe made it a sort of montage of different dates of some kind of, wacky individuals he tried to date. I think that could have been really fun and really engaging. And then finally meeting Neve, who is a mother to 3 children, who is also separated from her husband. And then obviously we have the romantic aspect there. While, as I did like seeing the dating with Santa, it took, I think, 55 minutes or 50 something minutes for Santa and Neve to have their first date. And this film is about an hour and a half, maybe just under that. Now, that's a long time to wait for the romantic leads to start their romantic relationship. So, absolutely, the pacing just wasn't very good. It would have been so much better if Santa maybe started dating 20 minutes in. We had a montage of a couple of failed dates. Maybe a few dates were slightly longer, and then they met maybe half an hour into it. And I think that would have made so much more sense. A lot of the time before that is setting up, getting to know Neve outside of Santa Claus's life. And yes, setting up is good to a degree, but we didn't need to know that much or see her that frequently before the two characters met on their first date. So absolutely, we could have lost half an hour from the film without losing anything. However, I still found it to be a really fun concept. Santa is really likable. I do typically prefer it when Santa looks old and he's wearing the red suit and it's much more classic, but having him just as Nick Claus, looking like an average 40-something-year-old man, it's absolutely fine. Within the context of this particular narrative, that works quite well. And he's a very likable character, and I wanted the best for him, and ultimately I had fun with it. It's an entertaining story, and while it's predictable in some places, it's not in others. And I think once you get over the pacing issue, and the pacing issue is kind of a big deal, it is actually quite entertaining and really good fun. I would definitely recommend it. I think the casting is great. The on-screen chemistry between Nick and Neve, I think, worked really well. And as I said, my only real issue is the fact that it took 50-something minutes for their first date to happen, whereas before that, it's basically setting things up for about 50 minutes, which is not great when the film itself is about an hour and a half. Not that the film should have been longer, but they definitely could have done a lot more and tightened things up a bit and made it a little bit more interesting. I would have liked to have seen Nick and Neve bonding more and doing different activities, and it would have worked so much better. But that being said, I still liked it. So it's not a perfect film, but I think it's a really fun concept, generally very well executed. And if you like films about Santa Claus or Christmas films that are a little bit different, then I'd say Santa's Second Wife is definitely worth checking out.